then I'll start talking. All right, it's 5:50. Do you know where your futures contracts are? Hey, everybody. Hope everybody had a great long weekend with Friday off from the markets. And crude oil, my goodness, where to start? Well, looking at the daily on crude, I like to look at USO too. Lately, I've been looking at USO as well as crude, and their structure is a bit different between the two, as you would expect. Sometimes it's interesting to look at both. Crude, I mean, is this a wave 4 or not? You know, that still remains the question. Because just from a pure Elliott wave standpoint, this could be all you get of wave 4. And if you just look at, zoom in real quick on that bounce, look at that thing on Thursday. The whole week. But in particular, the way it went out, look at that. So, if you're looking at the longer term structure, maybe this is the 4, and then now you're getting that. But at the same time, it's also possible to see this looking like moving in 3s when you're zoomed out of this scale. It's kind of like maybe that's an A. Maybe it's a micro ABC, but then there's a larger A. And so we still have yet to get the B, and then you get a C. And if that's the case, then this 3 is more like over here, and this is the 4 over here, and this is a more important, longer standing top. Just meaning you're going to get a deeper correction down, into these lower fibs over here. But, as I say that, I have no idea. How would I know that? I don't know. I'm not an Elliott wave expert at all, but I know just enough to understand kind of what's going on the surface level. So, if this is a wave 4, then this is not a 1-2. So maybe this is the wave 4, and this is starting wave 1. And you see, now that's a different idea from what USO is doing, which is more like USO is more like this could be the 1 and this is the 2. So in other words, in USO, this is a more reasonable wave 4 in USO, and this could very well be a 1-2 in USO. But in crude, this made a nominally lower low right over here. So, that can't be wave 4. So this would have to be, this is either wave 4 or it's some other unfinished corrective business. And we're just getting a bounce. So without getting into the weeds of Elliott wave in particular, that's good enough for me at this scale, because I'm really a short-term trader. So I don't necessarily need to know. Well, it's not like I could know anyway. I'd like to know, but if anybody knows for certain, let me know. So I like to use other things for clues. So, for example, just zooming in a little bit more here on the structure, still thinking about Elliott wave. This is what I was just talking about. Like maybe this is ABC for wave 4. If this was wave 3 of a larger degree, and now you've got a 3-wave move to finish wave 4. And what I did notice after the fact, because I'm doing other things now on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, most weeks, so I'm not on futures like I was for the previous many months. But when I do look at this, I always measuring stuff, right? So after the fact, I came over here and I measured this as a 1-2 and threw the pivot on there. And you can see, for Elliott wave, people know exactly what I'm talking about. So 1-2, it got above the pivot, it kind of held that pivot, and then it moved up to here. So on a micro, and by the way, this is a 55-minute chart, but I did look at this on a 5-minute chart. You could say that this is 5 up. You could say it's 5 up to there, but you could also say you could say that it's 5 up to there, but you could also say that it's 5 up to there. So I'm not really sure, but I measured both. But the idea is this looks impulsive, and this is not moving in threes, so to my eyeball anyway. So I think this is some kind of an impulse going higher. But the thing is, even if that's an impulse, it could still be just as I was saying, it could still just be like, for example, it could be the beginning part of a B wave. It could be, if this is a larger A, and this is an A. What I mean by B wave is A, B, C of B. That's one of the hang-ups. It's kind of like, okay, so it's impulsive, but it could be a C wave, because C waves can be impulsive, right? So if it's A, B, C, this could still be a B wave. And man, LA wave guys, they don't want to hear that, because if you've been doing it long enough, you know about B waves. It's just tricky, it's difficult. So, but as I was saying before, you're just trading the shorter term stuff. It doesn't necessarily matter, right? I mean, if you're just trading shorter term. So if this is 5 up to there, then, to this fib, that would be 2618, which is a reasonable. And plus, at this nano level micro scale, it can hit all kinds of levels that you might not normally think on a larger scale. Actually, and crude, even at the larger scale, it still does some pretty weird things in terms of extending and not getting a deep standard wave 2, getting super shallow pullbacks. And I'm kind of starting to get reminded of that right here, because if this is 5 up to there, 2618, this pullback is for a wave 2, that's really small. But it could absolutely be a wave 2. If somehow this extended and this is 3, 4, 5 to here, and this is really the top of wave 1 at the 3414, which is pretty close. I mean, it's pretty damn near right on that thing. Then maybe this is wave 2, but that didn't even make it to the 236. But I've seen this over and over. We all have, right? On this run up over here. I mean, it was doing all kinds of weird things. Like, I posted this chart over here, thinking this looks impulsive, and it could keep going higher. And a lot of LA wave guys with way more experience than me were like, "That's crazy. That count makes no sense in terms of standards." And then of course it happened and got right up into my target area. But it's just luck, really. I mean, I measured this stuff, but doesn't mean I knew that was going to happen. But it happened. So I'm just kind of babbling here. But the idea over here is, maybe 2 years ago I would have thought, well, there's no way that could be a 2. But now I'm like, well, yeah, it sure can be a 2. Or this could be the 2. But let's just say that this is a 1-2. Well, now we're in a 3. And if the way I measured it, let's see, these purple fibs, if that's a 1-2 right there of these purple fibs, we're just getting up into the pivot right now. So the reason, the strength of Elliott wave is using these, getting parameters. So it's not like a treasure map where it knows the future, but Elliott wave does give really good parameters so that you can understand, like, how could this be wrong? Well, if this keeps coming back down through here, and by the way, if this is a 1-2, it would be a different pivot. I mean, they're very similar, okay? They're close enough. But this would be the pivot if this green 1-2 is in play. So, the short story is, if this impulse, like if you're long, just see what the open does. Because if you're already long, there's a chance that this holds this general region, and then we need to get at least to 111.47 if what I'm cooking here has any validity at all. It will get up to here if this is at all close to being correct. I think what I mean by that is the probabilities would suggest that it's going to go up into here at a minimum. If this is an impulse, and if where I've put these two measurements, if that's close to accurate, then it should hold that. Now let's hop over to strat real quick. Now this is the short-term strat, 5 minute, 15 minute. This is the 1 hour, and this is the 4 hour. So what I'm looking at, most relevant, I think, to what I'm thinking right now is this 1 hour. So here's the range from 3 hours ago on Thursday, that's the range, that purple box. So, if it's really crazy bullish, it's not going to lose this purple box. And on the 5-minute and the 15-minute, you can see that. Okay, there's the open, whatever. It's going to rattle around. So if it's really going to be bullish, it'll hold that box. And, where that's at on this pivot, you'd want to see price, hold in this general area, as I was saying. So let's let this thing settle down. But clearly that thing is kind of popping up there at the open. But, as long as it's still inside of this purple box, I just view it as chopping along. It's kind of made it up here and it's consolidating. So an idea to take a long position, if that's your inclination, would be me personally, I wouldn't initiate a long right here, right now. If I were already long from Thursday, I wouldn't be taking it off. That's just me. Everybody's idea of risk is totally personal and depends on you. But, if I were long, it depends what your entry is too, right? I mean, this can chop around this box. It's just noise. Just because it opened like that doesn't mean it's just not going to come back and crap out. It could be. But the thing I love about the strat are these levels. So that purple box is really what I'm looking at. And I put a little support down here. I think it would still be tenable for longs if this needed to come back somewhere down in here. I think the longs would still have a chance. I think I put that box on there as a reference to this pivot, right? Man, this looks great for longs, I think. So, 2 minutes into the open, I'm saying it looks great for longs. That's a degenerate futures trader for you. So the 4 hour is really interesting too. In terms of strat, right? You've got a 2-2-1. So if this makes, well, that's 4 hours away. So, but if you get a 2-1-2 bullish continuation, that's great on a 4 hour chart. That's wonderful. But we're not going to be waiting around for that for an entry. Right, so just you got another 2 minutes. This is going to make let me not be presumptuous, but on the 5 minute, you'll probably get an inside candle, and that'll give you a chance, your first chance to think about strat in terms of entries if you don't have an entry already. And when I say entry, it could be a short entry or a long entry. I wanted to kind of talk about the 4 hour because it was so incredibly beautiful, and I wasn't on screen Monday morning, Tuesday, Wednesday morning. I'm doing other stuff. But oh my goodness, from a pure strat perspective, you had, just for a learning moment, you have a 2-1, another one. You have did that break that low? Let's see, 93, 91. It did. So you have this is actually a 2-1-2 bearish situation, but the very next candle might be more helpful to look at even the 1 hour going back in time while price is just sort of hanging out in that purple box. Let's go back in time just for a little strat review. Looking at this bottom right here using the 1 hour chart, if you're eyeballing the 4 hour chart, you've got that range, that purple range, which I love to use. And you can see on the 1 hour, it held that range. That's why the range is there. So it came down and kind of banged along the bottom. You got an inside candle. And a strat entry is when you have a 2-1, and it either breaks the top of that one or breaks the bottom of the one. That's an entry. So if you'd have been eyeballing this 4 hour chart and thinking maybe this is bottoming here and you got this big fat inside candle and you're watching this 1 hour chart for an entry or maybe even the 15-minute for an entry, just waiting, just kind of screwing around while waiting for that 5 minute to go to the next candle in 10 seconds. It'll probably, wow, that thing is really popping up there. Let me pay attention real quick here to the 5 minute, and we'll get back to a little strat chat. Okay, so now you got an inside candle on the 5 minute there. So let's see what that does. If you want to be long, I really don't like these. I don't like making entries after these long candles, but I'll do it. But I don't love that, because so many times, it can come up here and poke over the top, and if you go long there, your stop really should be the bottom of this candle in terms of playing it the strat way. Okay, but back over here to this thing. So you're watching the 4 hour, and you're using the 4 hour to define your ranges with that purple box. But that purple box shows up on the other time frames, which is why I like it. So if you were trading the 15 minute looking for an entry, you would be waiting. You could have taken a long entry there. You would have got stopped out over here, but that's okay. Strat allows you to use tight stops because you can just keep trying. I know, like, without using a system, I wouldn't want to try over and over again and keep getting stopped. But with Strat, I have done that many times where I might get stopped out 4 or 5 times in a row. If I have a bias, if I'm like, no, I really think this thing is going down, and I might get stopped out on these lower time frames 3 or 4 times. But then once you catch the fish and it's really running, now you can just, if you have conviction, then I don't keep my tight stop anymore. I'll give it room to run, and if I'm lucky enough and it really moves, then I'll use a longer time frame to make the stop. So the point of me babbling on like this about the strat is, had you been eyeballing the 4 hour last week and then using these lower time frames to take entry, even if you had been using the 15 and gotten stopped 4 times or at least 2 times, you would have got stopped at least 2 times in a row using the 15 minute. But then eventually this thing it caught the gear, and now it never came back down to those levels for the entire week. But the cool thing is now, and I've done this before in the past, I'll eventually use the longer time frame for my stop. And this is wild how if you'd have used a 4 hour time frame for your stop, once you really got the thing moving, which didn't take long, right? By the morning, you were maybe I'm off on my time exactly. 8, 11, 10. Yeah. So this was the next day. Sorry. This was the next day. But still, the point is, if you're watching your stops on the 4 hour and you just keep moving up your stops, you would not have gotten, look, your entry could have been down here in the mid to low 90s. And if you'd have just used a 4 hour as your stop following the strat method, you would have just kept raising your stop to the next bottom of the next 4 hour candle. And that just would have kept you in the money all the way to there. So you would have finally gotten stopped at 157. So, making $5 in futures, in crude oil futures, that's fantastic. So now, what's going on? Where are we? Well, we had this wonderful run up, and this is why I love Elliott Wave too. It's like the strat is great for entries, exits, managing the trade, making sure that you never take big draw. I have never taken as big a drawdowns now that I'm using strat as I have taken in the past. It's just a sign of my own, incompetence. And strat has just really helped me big time to limit the drawdowns. And like I was just saying, if I get stopped 4 times in a row, they're small. Whereas, people talk about letting your winners run. Well, if you're using strat method for your stops and you get a handle on it, get a feel for it, you can really let your winners run and end up making a lot more gains. And then when I go back to doing 3 stops or 2 stops or whatever, or sometimes I'll just use wider stops, but generally I don't. In general, I would prefer tighter stops when I have an edge, but I don't feel like I necessarily have an edge right now just for entries. If I were looking for an entry, the most obvious place per strat to take an entry is when price breaks out of the top of this box. But it's not unusual for price to break out the top of a range and then come back and back test it or dip below. Now, while I'm saying that, Well, here's a good example of that, actually. Going back again to the 15-minute chart from earlier in the week. Like, for example, if you'd just said, okay, if it breaks out, or even over here, if it breaks out the top of this range on the 15-minute, I'm going to go long, and I'm going to make my stop the bottom of this candle on the 15. Well, then you would have gotten stopped, and then it would have went up and never come back again. So what I'm saying is, just because it breaks out of the box, sometimes I'll make multiple attempts at that. Like if it comes back, like this is a perfect example, actually. If you get, or I'll just use a wider stop. I'll say, all right, I'm going to take an entry here, but I'm going to let it come back against me. Define your risk. I'll let it come back against me a little bit here. You might say that. So maybe you want to use a different time frame for your stop. Or if you stay on the 15, sometimes I'll skip a candle and just make the stop wider, especially if I've just made a $10 gain and then I'm back into trade, true story, and I'm back into trying to get an entry, whatever, later, a few days later, whenever later. Then maybe I'll be a little slightly looser, still keep a really close eye on risk definition and so forth, but there's 100 different ways to trade. I'm just sharing with you how I like to do it. And sometimes not trading at all has been great. I've done well to not trade some of this stuff, although I clearly missed a wonderful run this week. Really nice long scalp. Okay, so the idea here would be, let me just zoom in. So, you got an inside candle. Stratters love the inside candle because it's got a resolve. It's not going to stay a 1 for long. Oh, well, that candle will stay a 1 in perpetuity. But the point is, it's going to break one way or the other. Did that already poke the bottom of that? So the bottom of that candle is 106.99, the bottom of the current candle. Yeah, so it actually already broke that low. Okay, so it already broke that low. So this is a 2-1-2. Oh, yeah, it's telling me right there, duh. Okay, 2-1-2 bearish reversal. Does that mean would I want to go short there? Not me. But that is something of a short entry. But I'm not buying the shorts right here, that's for sure. So, yep, it's 6:12. Here's the open. So, if you want to be long, I'm just going to hop off. Let me see if anybody's commenting or anything real quick over here. How can I hop into my... Oh, okay, thanks. So, all right, nobody's asking me any questions or anything. That's cool. It's fine. So I would just say that the parameters that I'm watching to be long are really, honestly, at this moment, are Elliott wave based, which I already showed you over here. These pivots, to me, these pivots are great. It's respecting the pivot. It's coming right up through there. So what I would do, in fact, I think I'm going to do this. See, this would be an outside candle because it's already a red 2, but it's only a 5-minute chart. I'm just looking for a long entry. And let me go ahead. I'm hopping over to another screen. I think I'm going to keep this small size, but the top of this candle, 107.36. Yeah, hold on, 107.36. Yeah. I am going to place an order there, and in this case, I'm going to keep my size really small because I'm not in love with this here. As for an entry, I'm not in love with it, but it could work. So, part of the reason I'm taking the entry is because we're already in the pivot. Okay, hold on. Let me set my stop order because I think it's. And you know what I'm going to do? Now here's something else that's a slight deviation from strat. Mentally, I'm going to keep a stop at the 50% level of this big fat juicy candle. Okay, boom. All right, I just got filled. Why is my magnet not working? So all I'm doing here, now this is kind of a strat thing, but not a pure strat thing, 106.43. All I'm doing is just making a quick and dirty 50% mark of that candle. And I like to use the same color whenever I make that mark. I use the same color. And I don't need to see the 0 fib and the 100 fib. I only need to see the 50% fib with a dollar amount, a price level. So, oh wow, look at that. So the 50% of that candle is actually very, very near the bottom of that candle. So it's really the same thing. So let me just set my stop. I'm going to set my stop for 1 penny below 106.96. Okay. All right, hold on. The reason I set my stop 1 penny below is I've seen it too many times. It'll come down to the penny and hold the little zone here. And then I get stopped out, and then it goes $5 without me. And then I'm in a bad mood. So I just put it 1 penny below. And of course, it can come down 5 cents and stop you out, but at least I don't have to experience the extreme pissed offness of getting stopped to the penny. I mean, that's going to happen anyway, so I don't need to set it up to make it happen at higher odds, because it can totally happen. Okay, so now I'm long 107.36. I think I'd feel better if it can break out of this range. And this candle on the now back to the 4 hour, if it does break the range, this 4 hour is not going to be an inside candle anymore. It's going to be a 222. And that is nothing wrong with a 222, bullish continuation in strat speak. This video is a little long in the tooth, but I think it's the reason I started making these videos, I was making them for myself as a trade journal, because I used to keep a regular trade journal, meaning like a Word doc and I would take screenshots of the conditions of the setup and make annotations on it and stuff like that. And then I was like, wait a minute, I just make myself a video, which is way faster and easier, and I would keep them really short. And then I started sharing with my buddies who also trade crude. If you're listening, you know who you are. And then some folks kind of liked it and said, well, that was cool. Maybe you should share that with the room. So every now and then I would share a video just for the heck of it, because it's fun. It's a little social aspect to it, right? Trading can be kind of boring, and that sounds weird, but it can be kind of boring, but involve other people in what you're doing, get a dialogue going. It's a little more enjoyable. Okay, so the 4 hour, if that can break out of this purple range, then you got a 222 bullish continuation. Look how everything is an inside candle. That's pregnant. But these lower ones, you've got time frame continuity, just as another concept. Time frame continuity. It's not like I go, oh my God, there's time frame continuity. Okay, I'm going to sell the jet ski and put it all on crude. You'd have to sell 5 jet skis, actually. But we only have one, so that wouldn't work. But the idea is the time frame continuity is just another clue, that's all. So, and just at a glance, you can see that all the time frames are 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 higher than where they opened. Whatever candle is in play, it's higher than where it opened. So every single time frame is green. That's all. That's what it is. Time frame continuity. So like if you're going to scalp or take an entry, it's not a bad idea to take. It's nice when you take an entry with time frame continuity, but that can change in 5 minutes. With the first one, the 15-minute would have to come back quite a lot for that to turn red. Okay. So, right. So I could. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to my chat. Gonna mute this thing. Mute. Oh yeah, no, I'm not bearish. You must have missed the first part of the video, but no, I'm at the moment. I mean, I just took a long position, and at the moment, yes, I was bearish over. Yes, I've been bearish on crude for several weeks, and this past week, I wasn't able to trade Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday when this amazing, wonderful impulse was happening. So, yes, I have a bullish bias at the moment. Yes, and if you just joined and just tuned in, what's giving me that is this is impulsive, and I can count this as 5 up. This is Elliott wave now. I can count that as 5 up to there, or it could be 5 up to there. I don't know, but either way, I put this pivot. Both of these pivots are in regards to whether this is the top of wave 1 or this is the top of wave 1. So either one of these pivots, the idea is you want to get up here. Now I must say that this pivot from the downside action, I wouldn't be surprised if this acts as resistance initially. I would not be surprised by that. And I wouldn't be surprised if price actually comes back down. And, because price, when does price move in a straight line? When? Yeah, exactly. So to answer, it's a fair question, but I don't know the future about am I bullish or bearish. It's tough because you just don't know, and this is like really early, okay? Because this is very early stage, but this is wonderful. It's a good-looking, bullish little wave. But, that's all I could say about it. I don't know. Now, because what really needs to happen, you see, let's go back to LA wave. If this, now look, I'm kind of talking, you got to just take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, because I'm no Elliott wave expert at all. And if you're watching this video and you're not in ElliottWaveTrader.net, that's the place to be for the greatest Elliott wave analysis there is, I think. I mean, I've checked a bunch out. I've watched a whole ton of Elliott wave videos all over the internet. I've paid for stuff. I've gotten free stuff. I've talked to people about it, whatever. The guys at EWT, ElliottWaveTrader.net, that's where you want to be. So anyway, the idea would be if this is going to keep going, wonderful. But the idea would be, since price never moves in a straight line, my thinking is just the way I'm measuring this, it could either make it up to here and start coming back, or it could make it all the way up to here before it starts coming back. So even if I have let's say a long bias, it's still going to come back. Price just doesn't move in a straight line, and that's what's so incredible about Elliott wave. It helps you to understand how do the markets work? How does price unfold? What are the ways in which price can unfold? It's very difficult because there's a lot of subtleties to it. There's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of subjectivity to it. Elliott wave gets a lot of criticism because there is so much subjectivity involved in it. But that's fine. It's fine. I like to use other methods as well to try to help support what I'm thinking and what I'm seeing in Elliott wave speak. Now, this is interesting because it's only a 5-minute candle, but this is, yeah, so it popped. This is a perfect example of what I'm saying. It popped the top of that range. So that's cool. That's something. And maybe it wants to come back. Maybe it wants to come back $5. I don't know. But maybe it wants to come back and back test the top of this range. It's an inside candle, so it's going to turn red if it makes a low below this candle, which is 107.40. Yeah, see, I'm not in love with this entry because price is just, it's in this range. That's what it is. And it's near the top of the range. So I took a long entry near the top of the range. And in general, I don't love that. Now, I'm going to give it this, right? I'm going to give it 40 cents, right? From 103.76, 107.36, sorry, to 106.96. I'm giving it 40 cents. Where I would prefer to make an entry is if I've got a range that I've defined and price has been chopping around in that range. I prefer to enter in the lower half of that range. Yeah, unfortunately, just because of the way the week unfolded, there's so many great long entries earlier in the week per strat. Look at this 15-minute chart of strat right here. This is beautiful. And had I been in and seen the impulse forming, I would not have kept raising my stop. I would have left. At some point, I would have given it a wide berth to let it chop around a bit. Now, on a nano basis, that's kind of what I'm doing here, right? I'm giving it in the context of a 5-minute chart, right? All I'm trying to do is see if my entry is good or not, if this is going to follow through. The title of this video is going to be, Will Longs Follow Through? And that's literally what that's really the only thing I'm thinking about right now is, are longs going to follow through and get up out of this range, which is really just this 4-hour candle range. It already did poke above, but as I was just saying, it can poke above and then come back. So I wouldn't necessarily want to make an entry just because it poked, especially on a bigger range like this. I did take the entry that it poked above this smaller range, right? So I did take that entry, but I'm going to let it come back against me, a predefined amount, and that amount is the 50% level of this opening candle. I'll let it come back, but if it wants to get 1 penny below that 50% mark of that opening candle, then I'm out. Yeah, and just taking another look just to see what that kind of looks like. All right, so bam, what a long video. Sorry it got so long in the tooth, but there you go. So that's the strat, using the lower time frames for entry, using the longer time frames for range, defining range, and really it's the 4-hour that I was mostly considering in terms of the range, and even the 1 hour. Seeing how price is just squarely in this range, okay? And and if it came back, just a note to self, like if it does come back, which certainly it could come back, of course it could, come back, stop me out, whatever. Sometimes I'll just put a 50% fib over the entire range. Because, what I'm trying to do is not predict the future. I'm just trying to have parameters. Okay, so there. So now I can also see the 50%. You know what got me doing this too is learning about Darvis boxes. It's kind of another thing, but I love really simple things And Darvis is simple, as is the strat. Simple and effective. So as far as just understanding parameters, if this comes back and stops me out, fine. If it wants to come back and just chop along in this range, I would play the same game I just played here from down here. I would prefer to play it in either this quadrant or this quadrant. But I'm not gonna play that game right here. I'm giving it a chance to get up and out of here, if it wants to. If bulls want to follow through tonight, and this can hold this range, that would be so cool for my entry. And of course, at some point, I gotta decide what to do with the stop, and that's another whole nother thing. But anyway, okay, I think I'm just going to end the video because I've talked enough, and there you go. Now, parameters. These are the parameters that I'm looking at short term, and I'll just repeat this one last time. So if it comes back down through these pivots, could this have been all of 5? No, nope. Yeah, I guess so somewhere, but I think the probabilities of that happening are lower. I think it's more likely that before you get a more meaningful pullback, I think it would get higher first. It could get a pullback, but I don't think it'll get like a 50% or 618 pullback from here. I think that's less likely. 107.74. So I know I keep saying I'm going to end this video, then I'm not ending it. Just throwing some fibs up, and I like to change the color. I like to try to stay fairly consistent on my colors just to keep my mind clear. So, how could this be 5 up? If that's a 1-2, then that's 5 up already. If that's a 1-2, then the 5 needs to at least come up to here. If that's the 1-2, meaning this is 5 up, and that's a 1-2, then it needs to come up to here. So yes, it can pull back from here, but if it pulls back from here, I don't know, man. I think it just keeps going. How could that be? Anything could happen. But I like this based on what I've witnessed on crude on this insane bullish action. These shallow pullbacks, I've made friends with them. Okay, I used to not be friends with these super shallow pullbacks. I'm like, that is, I remember posting this. I was commenting about this multiple times on the crazy run-up, basically since December. Is so many times on any scale. It's like, how can there be this many wave 4s? Because it pulls back between the 236 and the 382, which makes you think, well, maybe that's a wave 4. But how can that? No, that can't be a wave. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any different way that you count this, it doesn't fall along standards, but it is impulsive. And is the price going up? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, price is going up. Is it making like 3 wave? Does it look like it's moving in 3s? No, not to me. It just looks like it's moving in like 1. If anything, you could say 1, 2, 3, 4 held the pivot. 5, and then the wave 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know maybe I'm making you crazy here, but this looks like an impulse. So, do I still have a position? It can bobble around in this range and not harm this structure at all. It could come back. It would be ideal if it holds this pivot, or if it gets below here. What is the low of that right there? Is that, 104.92. Just keeping it real simple. You don't want to see below 104.92 if you want to be immediately bullish. It can rattle around in this entire range and still be okay on structure, I think. All right. All right, guys. Good luck, everybody. Have fun. And let me check before I bail, see if anybody else commented. I was looking at Thanks for your comment, Win. And I am going to sign off, everybody, and I will see you soon. See you in the room. If you want to learn more about LA Wave, go check out lawavetrader.net.